Hello everyone! The question on everyone's minds, one of the questions that I've heard the most during stream, and the question that I'm asking for my giveaway over on Twitter, which you can still enter until the 5th of October. Who is going to be the big bad for Dragonflight? Who is going to be the emboss that we face when all is said and done? And for now, we have no clue, but we can definitely guess. We can speculate, and that's what we're going to do today. Do be warned, there are going to be spoilers for the upcoming expansion, so if you don't want any spoilers, this video won't be for you.
Here, the new age of dragons shall begin.
Out of all the replies that I got for the giveaway, it seems that most eyes are turned towards Galakrons. Now Gala who, I hear you ask, Gala what now? It would be Galakrons, those big bones that you can find within Dragonflight. Those would be the domains of Galakrons, and once upon a time he was described as the progenitor of all the dragons, the one that came first, forever resting within the dragon graveyard of Dragonflight, where during Wrath of the Lich King tried to bring him back. We now know that that was all a lie, continued on by the aspects. In truth, Galakrond was never a dragon, he was a proto-dragon. They're born from the elements, and they were a lot more primal and less intelligent than the dragons that we know today, with something quite extraordinary happening to Galakrond. He mutated and grew so big that he was the dominator of the sky. Wherever Galakrond went, the other proto-dragons knew, like, okay, it's good to keep your head down now, it's good to just not try to compete. He also grew so hungry with his size that he started to eat his own kind. In turn, started to puke them out, bring them back as zombie proto-dragons, or in some cases, he just ate them up again. He was quite the threat, as described in the novel Dawn of the Aspects, which we also have a machinima up for on the channel. Now to fight back and save the world, we see Alexstrasza, Ysera, Neltharion, Malygos and Nosdormu. They teamed up with Titan Keeper Tyr, and their union was able to overpower and end the threat of Galakrond. This in turn opened Tyr's eyes, and he realized that the world could use some more heroes. So Galakrond, he was not the big daddy of all the dragons, rather he was the big threat that they overcame, and in turn, they were empowered to become the dragons. Empowered with the aspects that we know, and a whole bunch of their kind now touched by titanic magics, the domain of order to safeguard Azeroth, but at the same time, also a whole bunch of their kind was not transformed. So that's what we're talking about here. That threat coming back. The thing that caused the aspects to begin with. It could be a very poetic ending to them, or just the expansion, the ending for Dragonflight. The beastie has been described as just being the biggest thing ever. No dragon that Caligos knew about could be compared, which, well, if you can just imagine the room that they would have for a Spine of Deathwing kind of fight, if Galakrond is even bigger. There's also the idea of not just bringing Galakrond back, be it with a resurrection or maybe some time travel shenanigans, but rather that we're going to deal with the thing that caused him to become so big and necrotic and full of growth to begin with. What that exactly is, we don't know, but there are some vague lines in Dawn of the Aspects book that hint at Tyr and the Keepers being somehow responsible for this path of evolution. We never intended this path. Galakrond should never have journeyed in the direction that he did, and we did not prevent it. Now this young world faces annihilation. It was clear that there was some tie between Galakrond and this thing. The Keeper knew why Galakrond had become the monster, and felt some fault at that happening. In our seeking to guide Azeroth's growth as a whole, we've been too long removed from the daily aspects of the world. Too long from interacting with the life of that world. Without guidance, events somehow brought us Galakrond. With guidance, we and your kind might be able to set Kalimdor back on its destined path. The Keepers were keen on using areas like Unguro Crater or Sholazar Basin as their experimenting grounds. Perhaps their experiments accidentally caused Galakrond to happen, and if so, could that something, could it still be out there? Could we see the war between dragons and proto-dragons? Could it escalate? Could we perhaps see a whole army of Galakronds? Honestly, I feel like this is a poetic sense to it all and could be really cool to see it play out in-game. If I had to follow along and make a guess, perhaps this one would be the closest call, the one that is most likely. But there are other options, of course. The second name that I've heard pop up the most, that would be Moruzand, as well as time travel, if not alternate realities. As it stands right now, Moruzand is the bronze dragon aspect Nosdormu's future. When he was given his powers over time, he was also shown his moment of demise to make sure that he wouldn't start thinking that he was above the laws of time himself. He was absolutely forbidden to prevent his own demise. Their charge was to keep the timeline pure. Now, somehow, the tormented Nosdormu, he was tricked by the old gods into doing just that, trying to subvert his own mortality. As a result, Nosdormu shattered the time waves and created the infinite Dragonflight, jeopardizing the very future of Azeroth. Our infinite friends have shown up a couple of times, like when they tried to stop Medivh from bringing the Horde into Azeroth, or when they tried to stop Thrall from escaping Durnholds. They even tried to stop Arthas from going to Northrend, and they showed up to help Garrosh escape his trial, make his way to alternate Draenor. Now, I don't believe that they ever given a clear purpose or motivation to the Infinites, but for a while it seemed like they were trying to prevent critical moments in relation to stopping the old gods. With no Horde or no Thrall, there would be a severely weakened Azeroth, and the war against Cthulhu and Silithus would have played out completely differently. With no Arthas going to Northrend, it might have meant that Yogg-Saron's escape would have gone unnoticed, but that might be looking for patterns where there are none to be found anymore. What we do know for sure is that they have no problem messing with the timeways, whereas the Bronze Dragons, they're meant to keep the timeline pure. Now, you could argue that Morduzand is an alternate version of Nosdormu, a future or possibility that could happen in a timeline, some other reality, but it won't happen to our Nosdormu. The problem is the end dialogue that they've given us when we defeated Morduzand and reopened the timeways that he had locked up.
Menthol, what I have at last it has come to pass. The moment of my demise. The loop is closed. My future self will cause no more harm. Still, in time, I will fall to madness. And you, heroes, will vanquish me. The cycle will repeat. So it goes.
The loop is closed. This is the moment of his demise. The future that was shown to Nosdormu. The moment that he is not allowed to change. Which means that we still have some awesome stuff to look forward to. Not so awesome for our Nosdormu, I suppose, but at some point, he is going to find himself in a situation where the old gods get to him. You might ask, how is that still possible? Did we cleanse the old gods off of Azeroth? Which is definitely true, but we do have the power to time travel here. During one of the quests, one of the leveling quests, we actually go back in time and see the moment in which the old gods ruled the world. So they could use that, or they could use old gods not from Azeroth, but from somewhere else entirely. And yet, if we have already defeated Morduzand back in the Cataclysm, what kind of threats could they still offer us during Dragonflight? Well, if we are going to power up Nosdormu and the other aspects back up again to what they used to be, and if Nosdormu does indeed fall to corruption, then he will be an extremely powerful foe with the powers over time at his side. And Morduzand also dropped this little gem.
All unwitting like a blind writhing worm towards endless madness and despair. I have witnessed the true end time. This is a blessing you simply cannot comprehend.
A time which was worse than the timeline in which we failed to win the Cataclysm and the old gods managed to break out of their prisons. That timeline, it was nothing compared to the one that Morduzand had seen. Was this just old god trickery? Or is there an awesome, dangerous, messed up reality which he could take us in? I've always said that even though Warlords of Draenor dropped the ball, the concept of alternate realities and showing worlds with minor changes, it could be really awesome. Imagine seeing a world where we're all Murlocs, or one where the Horde never invaded, or one where the Draenei never crashed on Draenor. This whole concept is been used in the books before, and I would love to see more of this while dealing with Morduzand. Personally, I feel like it could be more of a beefy patch, closing the loop, securing the timeline for us as well as Nosdormu. But who knows? Who cares? Seeing the birth of the infinite Dragonflight, it would be awesome. Then, as a third one, and my final one for today, I want to throw out something a little bit more random, a little bit more of a stab in the dark. If I have to compare Dragonflight to previous expansions, so if we link Legion to the Burning Crusade, or we link Shadowlands to Wrath of the Lich King, I would say that Dragonflight is linked to the Cataclysm. We see the elements that play a big part in the storyline. There are plenty of dragons going around, while they're adding a whole lot of previously unknown lore within the gaps where it can be filled in. That bits, as well as the Dragon Isles being hidden away ever since the War of the Ancients. Those bits remind me a lot of Mr. Pandaria. If we stick with the Cataclysm, we would see a big, bad Dragon End boss fight, like a Deathwing, like a Galakrond. But if we pull that line further, if we go into Mr. Pandaria, then we're looking at a faction war, at taking down War Chief Garrosh Hellscream.
Get into politics, they said. It'll be a fun new challenge, they said.
Trevelyan has been sitting on the throne ever since Anduin was kidnapped at the beginning of the Shadowlands. They've decided to go with a little time skip this time around. Going through the Shadowlands, that took us 2 years, similar to how long other expansions, other world threats have taken us. And then they've added 3 years of peace on Azeroth. 3 years until Dragonflight kicks off. They don't do this to have any major events happen off-screen. Rather, the idea is to give Azeroth a bit of a breather. Not have another world-ending threat immediately follow the last one. Maybe even have some of the characters grow up a bit, be introduced into the story. Throughout all this time, Anduin hasn't returned yet. The effects of the jailer dominating him, they still linger on. But the kingdom, it's been in good hands, with Trevelyan leading them. The alliance has grown stronger, potentially strong enough to start another war. To kick off such a war, they do seem distant, considering that they have been at peace for like the last 5 years now. But just look at the history between the factions. It doesn't take a whole lot to get them back at fighting again. And seeing how our Trevelyan is aligned to the Holy Light, this could even be used as a way to bring in Yrl from alternate Draenor. They could continue on their Holy Crusade story that was built up with the Magar introduction. In turn, his wife, Illyria Windrunner, she is deeply connected to the Void. Perhaps there's a gateway for Xal'atath to return. And seeing how Khadgar now re-enters the storyline, whereas previously he dipped out because the Horde and Alliance, they were going back to war. Wouldn't it be poetic to see Khadgar on the battlefield once more? This time, to stand against one of his oldest friends. Maybe even be forced to make the ultimate sacrifice. I don't know. At the end of the day, I just wanted to throw something else out there besides dragons. And to see the Alliance full-blown kick off a faction war, I think it's about high time. But what about you? What would you like to see as the end boss for Dragonflight? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe, click on the bell to be notified for my future videos. Leave a like on this one if you enjoyed it. And until next time, see ya!